Hi, welcome to Let 'Em Talk. I'm Paul DiRienzo, and we have a great show today. With us is Gabriel Don, who's returning on a return visit, and you were here about, what, 1 year ago, right?
I think over that, almost 3 years.
Oh my gosh, it doesn't seem like that long. Well, welcome. Well, a lot has happened in those years since you've been here last, and I know that you have published a lot of poetry. You've published a lot of short stories. You're teaching. You're a professor. Your career has really blossomed in 3 years. When I asked you, I think I asked you a question along the lines 3 years ago, Gabrielle, can you actually make a living as a poet?
And we worked out that I would write pop songs.
You write, right. But you have gotten to publish some poetry, and you're becoming a true poetess. So welcome, and
Thank you, Paul.
Tell me a little bit about what you've been up to and what your work is like that you've been working on. What have you been working on lately?
Well, right now I'm in the midst of editing a project. I've interviewed over 40 women around the world, women who write, about being a woman and a writer, and I'm in the process of editing that for publication. I'm talking to a few editors at a few different presses.
Is that going to be a book?
I've already finished it as a book, and now I'm editing it for publication.
Okay, wow, great, congratulations. And so that's the prose you've been writing, right? That's and it's nonfiction, right?
This is nonfiction, yeah. Right. Women in Writing is nonfiction.
Who are some of the people who you interviewed?
Maxine Swan, Hetty Jones, Julia Powell. Have you seen Julia and Julia, the movie? About the blog she started about writing a recipe.
Oh, really?
Cooking a recipe.
I did see that. Yes, I saw that.
So Julia Powell, the original book, Julia and Julia.
Oh, really? Okay, I saw that movie.
She's one of the women, yeah.
Oh, great. And Hetty Jones is an old friend of mine. I know.
You know Hetty?
Oh,
cool,
yeah. And, her husband was, Leroy Jones of Miri Baraka, the famous poet and African-American leader, political leader. So great. I just talked to Hetty recently. I wish I had known. I would have mentioned that to her. Great. And so, okay, and some of the other people, again, just go through some of them. I'm sorry.
I interviewed women in the Middle East, in Singapore, and in Australia. In Australia, Judith Beveridge, she's a very famous poet. I interviewed women across disciplines and across nations.
Now, you mentioned Australia, because you're originally from Australia.
Yeah, I was born there, but I grew up overseas in Singapore and Dubai. And I lived in New York 6 years this month.
Okay, so you're very international, right? International
Gypsy.
person. Right. Which of all those places, is there one place you favored the most?
Lower East Side, for sure.
That's great. Congratulations. So now, what have you, show us here's a collection of your work. You want to start in the middle, at the bottom, at the top?
You want some poetry or some fiction?
Yeah, some poetry would be nice.
Okay. Well, this book, this magazine, published by Jeffrey Wright, you know him, he's was taught by Allen Ginsberg, and this is Live Mag 12, so it's the 12th edition of this magazine. I was photographed for this series by my friend called Sydney, and it's a series called Powerful Women, and she photographed me on my typewriter, and she made me read an essay by Audre Lorde, and then I wrote this poem for her called To Audre Lorde, The Erotic as Power. And I wrote it on my typewriter in front of her, and she photographed me, and then this is the result, and then it got published. And you can see it's a different line break. He was a milksop, ineffectual boy in big shoes, and I like big, big men, gorillas, and I like to feel small. Belief systems don't always align with reality. I am mercurial, subject to change or mood, fleeting like a fairy, but you cannot capture me. My light cannot be kept in a jar. I am fleeting and free. An empowered woman is dangerous, but can one be powerful in need? I need someone to take care of me, and I need to start taking care of me. I don't mean money. I mean I want him to tend to domesticity, do my dishes and feed me. I work so hard, my mind on many matters, I forget to eat. I need him to sustain me in the kitchen and always make me calm, know what makes you unhappy and eliminate them one by one. She liked her work. It worked her like she worked herself. With each touch of her clit, she was energized and powerful.
All right.
Do you like that? Domesticity? Not domesticity, it's dumb.
Domesticity. Domesticity, right? I got that. Right. Well, here, let me take a look at this book before we move on to the next one. Okay, so I like the cover. All right, very nice.
Collage artist.
All right, collage art. And what's the back? It does. That's sort of depressing. It doesn't get any better.
Oh, is that by John Giordano?
Uh-huh. And so it's a beautiful magazine. Does it come out on a regular basis, or is it?
I'm not sure how much he releases.
Right.
Is it maybe annually?
Okay, great. And
It's also available online.
Here's what this is, the East Village. What is this? This is interesting. What is? That's our neighborhood, but I'm trying to figure out what this is a map of. It's sort of interesting looking map, if anything. Well, tell me a little bit about these mags, because I think they're fascinating, and I noticed that you're always talking about presses and small presses, and a lot of your work is published through these small presses, right?
Well, I don't
Not
know.
entirely.
Not necessarily. There's all different ranges of presses here.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But I want to focus on.
I definitely like making handmade zines myself. With my students at BMCC, we've just written a bunch of sonnets, and I'm gonna hand make some zines of our work. Little chapbooks.
Yeah, chapbooks. That's what I was interested in, the chapbooks a little bit. So because there's a certain amount of layout. And
Hetty Jones actually taught me about that, because when I did a chapbook for my class at the New School, I stapled it all by myself, and Hetty Jones was like, no, you have to have chapbook parties. So this next chapbook, I'm like, everyone's coming into my house, so I'm going to be stapling or punch holing together.
Oh, I see. Okay, great. And then how do you distribute those when you do? You just,
you hand them out to people. You go to bookstores. You talk to bookstores about putting it on the shelf. It depends if you want to make money or just hand it out. It depends what your purpose is.
Right. Are there bookstores that will cover? Take it?
Absolutely. Yes, there's lots of wonderful bookstores that you can distribute to.
Right. So that's something people can do. Like, I love the zine culture, so that's why I was very interested in that.
Hetty Jones actually brought it to my attention that a lot of bookshops won't put things on the shelves that have staplers in them. So that's actually a disadvantage of a lot of chapbooks. They want that spine. They want a hard spine.
I see.
But there's a lot of bookshops that still do old zines.
Right, I see. Okay, very interesting. All right, so but of course not all your work is in zines or in magazines with staples. And so you said you also are featured in some of these books. Maybe we could look at one or two of these and see what they were about.
You want another poem or a short story?
Well, either one. Tell it whatever you wish.
Okay, well this
is a beautiful book.
This is
Tell us a
Lunch.
little bit about the book. Yeah.
This is an art magazine run by Akeem Duncan, and I have a short poem in it, a prose poem called The J Train. And he also did a write-up of me, and he took a photo of me in my East Village garden. You know that?
Right.
Diazzi Flores.
Right, and the garden. It's a beautiful garden, right?
Here I am, so you can see me sitting in the
fall
garden.
and spring events. J Train, is that the name of it? And that's you.
That's me.
That's you at the garden. Okay.
Okay, J Train. Every time the J train passes me on my walk across the bridge, I think you're watching me. My body curves in on itself self-consciously. A person who I imagine is a drug dealer sweats though it is winter, and his boombox next to beer cans and litter-like plastic liquor bottles line the ground. Graffiti lines the rooftops I am skipping across like the aristocrat cats, and two hands form hearts with index fingers and thumbs. The sun sparkles off the water, and a tugboat can be seen long after it's gone, leaving ripples like the wobble of the ground beneath me as your train passes.
Beautiful. How long did it take you to write that?
I walk across the Williamsburg Bridge almost every day or every second day, and I wrote it on my walk across the bridge.
You actually wrote it
This
while you
was
were
an
walking?
exercise of like taking things that could be misconstrued as a metaphor, but were completely literal. So the bridge was wobbling. I did see all those things.
Right. They actually were real, not
They were
metaphors.
actually happening.
Do you stick to things? Do you like metaphors, or do you stick to actually describing things?
Well, I think when things become so concrete, they can become abstract, or vice versa.
I see. Like sort of existentialism is like that, right?
How do you mean?
They're real, but yet they take on a certain the
We
realness
can't help
of
it.
it.
Exactly. You can't help but attach meaning to
Right.
it. Yes.
The nausea. If you read Sartre, right?
Like being there.
Right.
Peter Sellers.
It crosses over into like the reality and need for what you need today crosses over.
And
into
we
sort of
can't
a
help but
spiritual
project our interpretation onto it.
world. Oh, okay.
So the bridge wobbling was just the bridge wobbling, but it could be a lost lover.
Now, you do use metaphors, right? I mean, we all do it. In the English language, it's based on metaphors, pretty much. Okay, that's very interesting, and it was also a beautiful magazine. I want to just take a moment with the magazine and just show people where.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I think that this front cover is based on a photo of Picasso. So Gregory Siff, I think they're trying to allude the fact that he's a new Picasso.
And it's just, my goodness.
It's wonderful. The quality of art is amazing.
It's beautiful. Right? I just opened it up at random, and there was something very interesting in it. and I don't know, I'm just going to go through it and open up another page. Oh, here it is. So this is really an art magazine, right?
Yeah,
There's
it's an art
in it, and
magazine.
it's almost like a work of art in itself as a magazine, right?
Very
Okay,
luxurious.
great. Right. So how did they find you, or how did you find this
How did I
magazine, for
find
example?
them?
Yeah. For example,
For example, how did they find me?
how do you get your poetry out there?
They found me in this case. They asked me to host one of their parties for the launch of book one, and then it just turned into I've gotten involved in their process.
Mm-hmm.
And
Is
then
there
they
a
asked me to submit a poem.
There's a poetry.
And they wrote a write-up of me and my work.
Oh,
And
really?
Did you see?
No, I didn't see
They
that.
wrote a
Find that.
review of me.
Oh,
It's my
right.
first proper review. You should read it, Paul.
I will read it.
He's far too nice. I came down to him.
Where is it? Here?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Okay, let's see. I have to put my glasses up here and let me see.
And there's a photo of me on my typewriter.
Gabriel Don is a photo of you, right? Gabriel Don is an emergent writer and poetess with an insatiable thirst for language. She has a timeless allure that would lead you to believe that she once waxed poetic about nothing with Ginsberg. Waxed poetic about nothing with Ginsberg. Felt the mud of Woodstock betwixt her toes, or shared a cigarette with Candy Darling in the back room of Max Fish. Her unbridled innocence and streetwise satire are reminiscent of a cultural heyday thought to be long gone. Don is an endearing traditionalist, a clever modernist, and an awe-inspiring futurist. She is omnipotent. She is capable of capturing a range of emotions in a single piece, like fireflies in a mason jar. Her words, laced with a quotidian surrealism, tumble through your mind for an eternity, and so forth. Great. Dawn currently lives and works in Alphabet City. She studied creative writing at the New School and has had her work published in numerous publications, including Gargoyle, Mascara Literary Review.
Oh, I have that one here.
Oh, great.
Oh,
Westerly 58-2 and Great Weather for Media. Right.
I read that Great Weather for Media on our first interview.
Yes, yeah, I remember that very well. Right. Okay, great. So you're well recognized as a poetess. Congratulations, right?
Thank you.
But you don't write poetry entirely. You also write.
I write fiction and nonfiction. I also
we talked about the nonfiction, so fiction as well, short stories and things like that.
short stories are probably my main medium, like my favorite. Not favorite, but my main mode of expression. But I'm also a singer and a painter.
Right.
It really depends on the impulse.
Well, you sing with that's how I met you, really, singing with David Peel on the Lower East Side.
At that cafe, Jaffa, what is it called? The cafe before it shut down?
That's
the boxing club.
9 Bleecker Street, the Yippee Cafe. The Yippee Cafe.
Yippee Cafe, that's what
we
I
used to
meant.
run on 9 Bleecker Street for many, many years. And although it wasn't always a cafe, it was just Dana's house. But when he got himself arrested, it became the cafe. And then people were coming over to play all the time, and you guys came with, we had ran that open mic. We had an open mic event.
That was the only time I'd been there.
Yeah, during the open mics, right? Yeah. It was too bad you weren't there before. It was fun. You would have liked it beforehand. Yeah, David used to come all the time. I used to see him over there, right?
I wish I was here before. The Pyramid Club, everything.
Yeah, $6 million. Nowadays, with $3, $4, $5, $6 million for a building and $20,000-$30,000 a month rent is, for a different class of people than it used to be when we were there. That's for sure.
The East Village is still a beautiful place.
It is. It is. I have to admit that, and I'm glad you said that, because so many people, I've had people on this show who say it's changed forever and it'll never be the same. But you're right.
I run into you in Thompson Square Park every day, Paul. We have a good life.
Right. There's still beauty there. You just have to find it. Maybe search a little bit for it. You had to in the old days too. Believe me. Great. So short stories. Tell me about short stories.
I'll read an excerpt from Gargoyle. This is published by Richard Peabody, and this short story I wrote as part of my master's, but it's been edited since then. It was an exercise to write about things. I think often I'm associated with light or happiness, and to write the things you're afraid of. So I went to the darkness, and I wrote in the first person of a homeless man obsessed with death.
Okay.
And the turn of the century.
All right.
Child of Ukrainian refugees. I'll read from the beginning.
Go ahead.
Cut me off whenever.
No, take your time.
Cesspools and treasure chests. It wasn't too heavy. Down it went with a slap, nicking and slicing neatly, heaving sods. You wanted to be asleep, I wanted to be awake. They try to make me turn off my mind. They try to make me the Walking Dead, vacuous. All but death can be adjusted. Death is exempt from change. The I can't talk to you anymore. I nudge you, but you don't move. I hate when things are over. If the ending was the beginning, we will be a baby in the grave, a corpse in the womb. All you wanted was to work. I was born smiling. My birth certificate doesn't tell me that. Ink-blotted paper I found folded only tells me 12/25/1913 M. An umbilical cord is never severed, it is just reversed. Mother met father in February. At New York's 69th Regiment Armory on Lexington Avenue between 25th and 26th Street, amidst paintings and sculptures, she told him she liked his nose. In the company of Cézanne, Duchamp, and Matisse, she wanted only what my father exhibited. Unlike my father, she thought being called a freak or a clown was a compliment. They debated this all the way to her bedroom. Daddy, don't you dare die. Mother mustn't be mortal. I fear not my own. I didn't want everyone around me to evaporate. The bum of a building that contained the two suitors who had become my mother and father was covered in outdoor advertisements, a polychromatic poster of nativity, and a garish-colored can of insecticide claiming it killed kindly.
That's your story? Great.
But no, it goes on for like 17 more pages.
You can read a little bit more if you want.
You want
more? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Another couple minutes.
Death is quite certain. It repeats itself so frequently that it becomes tedious. Skeletons and scythes and skulls. Death isn't disintegrating. It holds its position like a successful fort. I am sick to death of death. Death, a meat ant on a cicada. Death takes from life something like the deceased body of St. Francis Xavier, still preserved but lacking. An intangible voice, a quality to the tone resonating down the phone receiver, the I know who you are and who you are not, what makes you distinct from the rest of the other seemingly cookie-cutter pigs and horses. Even though I haven't heard you speak for a long, long, long time that sometimes moves as minutes and sometimes millenniums, your hello is distinct as you are till death, as time tames you into you. Never knowing how near death deceives, a withered plum still holding on to a tree's twig and a smooth stone at its feet. They persecuted him everywhere he went. The people he ran to discriminated dangerously, unlike a preference for a certain wine with dinner, equal to the people he ran from. Though his limbs moved in front of each other till he crossed the sea as if he were in control of them, he wasn't. My father could have stayed on his parents' porch always, unlike some of the people he used to know, who traveled to the United States of America dreaming of more money. If the pogrom didn't push him off his parents' porch, his diary dated 1905 Kiev, Daddy would have remained within the gates that isolated Jews from the people of Christ. Daddy always uneasy with being beyond the pale, though he always was. He couldn't riot like my mother adamant to unrest in peace. Tatty didn't like his own fingerprints. Tatty, Tatty, when I called out to your father, scared in Central Park, needing your hero-imbued attention, many men turned around. Mother could have carried your weight. Why didn't you let her? Your mind made heavy things around your neck. Mother's head never dipped below the surface of the water, not once. You never left death's doorstep where you sat on your parents' porch. Failed comforts of cakes and sweet dumplings. My mind has many minds. Some control the channel, reporting back to me as I wish. When a minute ought to take a month, it does. Some don't ever let me have my way. It turns up paths and dark alleyways I would rather avoid. It investigates things, report information I don't want to know. I kept my eyes and ears and mouth shut for as long as I could, but my skin could still feel and my mind kept moving. Not always can I tell my tongue not to taste. When my mother held giving birth to me against me, I told her I wish it had never happened. I lied. If it didn't happen, I wouldn't have cared. No me to think. I did not have a say in the proliferation of my cell reproduction or consciousness. Passive to process. Oh, death, you schmuck.
And that's just a few pages of your 17
just 1.5.
Right? 1.5 pages. That's great. So is that, how does the story go on? Like,
you have to read it. You have to buy the gargoyle. $30 online.
All right, cool. Gargoyle.
It doesn't have any sense of time and space. It's set in the past, present, and future all at the same time. I don't know if he knows it's jumping around.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Which is a very fractured sense of.
Right. Is that your own idea, or do they teach that in?
No, I was inspired. No, but I was inspired by a reading I went to say write to what you don't.
You were
write
inspired
to the
by
darkness.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, you were inspired
by a reading series. I can't remember what author it was, but at a reading series, that's why I really encourage people to go to readings, because you're constantly inspired.
Well, you're inspiring when you hear people write and you,
and in discussion,
right.
doing the same thing you are.
I see. So someone could be listening to you out there right now and be inspired to write something.
Hopefully.
Right. All right, good, very good. All right, so okay, great. So how? Tell me, what's your writing style? Do you like sit alone, or are you alone?
I'm all over the place. If I read some of this, it's going to sound like a completely different voice.
They say writers are lonely. You know, they say writers are lonely because they spend all that time writing. I mean, they're not out socializing or anything. It
depends. Like I like to collaborate, but I guess you do have to spend some time alone. Right. But I think in any creative process,
you have to be able to get along with being alone.
But I think that's why you become an artist, is you like being alone and you're comfortable with your own artistic psyche. I like being alone. I'm happy alone. Even as a baby, my mom would leave me alone and she'd come back and I'm like finger painting the wall.
Right. Great.
Much to their dismay.
Oh, very interesting. Do you get bored easy? If you're not keeping yourself active and doing things.
I think I have a lot of things to keep me active.
You do, right? You're keeping busy, right? All right, great. Now you are, right? So you're a professor, for example. What do you teach?
I teach writing, English.
What's that like?
I love it. I get a lot of energy from my students. I have 29 each class. What?
How are their skills?
Wonderful. We just did sonnets, and one student came back to me with 3 sonnets, so I put her onto sestinas. So, yeah.
Is that a general writing course or a poetry course?
No, this is just an English Comp 101. But no, when we do sonnets, it's like an essay. So the first half is one point of view, and the second half is another point of view, and the GG, which is the rhyming couplet. We wrote a sonnet on your first...
Right.
Yeah.
We did. Remember, I was terrible at it, but you were great. You could do it like that. You're used to doing it, right? Very good. I'm not used to it. I was never very good at fulfilling a certain style, like trying to keep to a certain style.
And I remember on your first show I said that it's easier when you have restrictions. If anything is possible, nothing is possible.
It's better, right? Well, I use space as a restriction, where I keep something to a certain length, and then if I add more to it, I have to cut out more, so that it's always the same length at the end.
No, my students, they read and they write every single class, which is wonderful.
Great. And what do you have a reading list that you developed, or do you have your own reading list you developed for them?
Yeah, we do different essays and stuff, but the textbook they're doing is Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud.
Understanding Comics. So comics are
it's a comic book, an essay.
Right. Well, comic books were like, in my day, to have a comic book was like almost an admission of ignorance, right?
Absolutely, and this book explores that, about high art and low art and what that means.
Right.
But it teaches very complex semiotic concepts and how we produce meaning and how reality and perspective is a construction in a fun way with pictures.
It's fun with pictures, right? But it's still a lot of reading. I mean, even a comic book now, a modern day comic book has a lot of emotion there and a lot of things.
Well, this is a nonfiction comic book.
Yeah, a nonfiction. What do you mean by that? It's about.
It's understanding comics. It's a guide to comics in a comic form.
It's a guide to comics in a comic form.
Yeah, it's genius.
Oh, very good, very good. All right, do something else you want to read for us? We're having a wonderful time here and we're running out of time.
Short story or poem? Which one?
A poem. Let's go to a poem, and then we can do another short story after that, maybe. And what is this in? What work is
this? This is in 3 Rooms Press, May 9. I'm so honored. This actually has original Dada artists in it, and we had to submit a poem or a collage,
right?
Or a collage poem, and I did a collage poem. Let me see if I can find it.
And people should see your collage.
Okay. You can show it if you want to.
I'll show it to you. I'll show it.
Should I read it first?
Go ahead, read it first.
Electricity does not always mean a connection. What is instant and easy is not always the most satisfying. Sometimes what I need is the moon and my own 2 hands.
Yeah, there it is. Well, there it is, and it's on.
And I change font every time, so when it says my own 2 hands.
Right, and aim it at the a little bit like this. There it is. See, there your camera, and lower it down a little bit. There you go. Wow. I like that. There's nothing really, I mean, maybe you want to cover your child's eyes. They might
I covered it with Hello Kitty.
Yeah, right. And, all right, so this is a story of sensuality in a way?
No, it's about how technology, the brief for submitting to that was about technology and modern society.
Technology, modern society, why the connection to the fruits and the cherries and strawberries.
Well, I'm taking a selfie. I'm using. I don't want to give meaning to my own work. People can extrapolate themselves.
I see. That's interesting. You don't give.
But I'm using a phone. Yeah. There's an electric toy there.
I see. All right, very good. Okay, and that is again in this wonderful book is Journal of Contemporary Dada Writing and Art, and 3
3 Rooms Press.
3 Rooms Press, right. I've been to a couple of their events, and Peter is a really great guy.
And they're doing a call for submissions
like
for Maintenance on 10 now. So if people want to submit, they totally can go online.
Right, and then there's a lot of art in this book. Again, also a lot of art, besides the wonderful art you did. And I don't know, there's not really time to show it all, but some of it is very provocative. And where is this? Where do you get books like this? Where do you go to find a beautiful art book like this?
I think they're quite well distributed. I think they're everywhere.
They're well distributed in any.
I think through
the village.
Press is on a bookstore in a lot of bookstores.
Bookstores have them in the village. The village bookstores would all have them.
You'd also buy it online.
Yeah. Okay, we got a couple of minutes. You want to try and read one more thing for us, Gabriel Don?
Sure. Short story.
Yeah, we can stick
Okay, this is in the Westerly.
We have about a minute, so.
Okay.
2 minutes.
A minute. I don't know that's time. Just a paragraph.
Yeah, a couple of paragraphs.
And this is Somewhere Else. It's about an expatriate family living in Singapore. And I'm addicted to alliteration. 2 sisters plunked down their school bags and scuttled into the kitchen, where they climbed on stools, hands creeping into cupboards, fidgeting through the fridge, finding ingredients. Big spoon next to big glass, the youngest one, Elizabeth, dolloped greedy, superfluous mountains of yogurt into it. She struggled with the stiff orange lid of the sugar jar. Her sister Delilah, always accommodating the baby first, assisted her by running the jar under warm water, banging its head on the countertop and squeezing it tight with a dishcloth, trying to turn. The circle budged. Baby clapped her hands in delight. Quick, before Mama wakes from her nap, they both agree with their eyes. Baby, though not a baby, but always the baby, even at 40 she would still be the baby. Scooped towering piles from the sugar jar into her yogurt to make an exuberantly sweet lassi.
Lassi, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love
yogurt
lassi.
And
Yeah. We'll say, explain what a lassi is.
But should I keep reading? You'll find out.
Yeah, keep reading, yeah.
Mama would never allow them sugar at home. 1, 2, then 3, and 4, then 5 spoonfuls of sugar. She stirred them in and then added 3 more, stirring the fine white powder in the creamy white yogurt. Globes of diamonds and crusty, sparkling circles formed, inwardly spiraling. The elder, stoic one waited as her little sister mixed it all in fastidiously. Saccharine delectation awaited. Both their taste buds tingled, mustered more by rebellion. The heavy cup cradled with her 2 hands, Elizabeth pushed it up to her lips and took a giant gulp. Instead of the sweetness she had expected, her mouth tasted like the ocean after a violent tumble taken in a horizontal water tornado at the beach.
Well, Gabriel Don, thank you. I'm going to cut you off
sorry.
right now. Thanks so much for coming on and having a great
cut me
show.
off early.
Yeah, we
Thank
have a
you,
few more
Paul.
seconds. Thank you, and we'll see you next week. Thank you very much.
Let me talk!
We did.